And we got a lot of dudes, man. I mean, a lot of RLDs, real live dudes that are flying around, and we should wreck shop.
Did you notice the yelling reduce a little bit as the weekend went on? It seemed like Friday was really intense.
For sure. I mean, you definitely notice that, right? I mean, you're stomping on someone's throat, it's going to get a little quieter.
It was very casual. We were just kind of walking off the field, and he was like, "So what you gonna do?" I said, "I'm gonna come back next year." He was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm excited. Let's go to Atlanta." And I was like, "Yes, sir. Let's make it happen."
Pardon me and my tone. You can't step to my throne. They ain't working like me. I did this on my own. You asking where we been, huh? I don't know where to begin, huh? All this dirt on my skin. I just came here to win. I'm more than a man, I'm a monster. Somebody call a pastor, doctor. I got a 6 cents for imposters. So now I'm coming for the whole roster. It's not a game, why you playing with me? You could double back, lose track, try and hang with me. It must be in my veins, something you can't tame, cause I break the chain. Can't control me. I got the power, I got the keys, cause I break the chains. They try to hold me, I'ma push back, just wait until you see.
Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. I probably shouldn't say my name because we didn't discuss how to do this anymore. We got a brand new cast of characters. Dauber's ready to say, "I'm Dauber, what's happening?" And then Xavier and Tim are just going to sit there and look awkwardly. So welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. I'm Boogie. He's Dauber. He's Xavier. He's Tim Bradley. We're going to hang out. We're going to shoot the bull. Look, it's a fan call-in show. We're going to get you guys on here. We're going to get the elite on here to hang out and talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. But this whole thing stemmed. I was talking about it a little bit right before we went live. This whole thing stemmed from a video I made earlier in the week talking about the pressure that is on Josh Heupel. And when I said the word pressure, social media had a meltdown. People were pissed. People were angry. They were screaming. They were yelling. And I know that most of those people aren't in the chat. Most of those people didn't watch the video, and most of those people don't really care. They just want a reason to yell. So that's what we're going to debate tonight. That's what we're going to talk about. Xavier's internet's horrible. Let's run down the chat. Let's see who is hanging out. Right out of the gate, John Hill with a $10 super chat. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Says, "One day closer to fall ball. Great series win for the Diamond Vols. Go Big Orange." Yep, big win for the baseball team today. We may get into that a little bit. I don't know. It's up in the air, trying to figure out what to do with baseball as we move forward. Wade Rouse in the house. What is up, Wade? Brad Burnett is here. The early arrivals coming on in. Smoky Mountain Serps is in the house. Pro Wrestling Guru. All the members of the channel here bright and early. Jay Clark in the house. Derek Rogers is here. Ethan Dalton is in the house. Jimmy Burnett. Guys, smash that thumbs up as you come in. Share out the link. Let somebody know we're live. Let's grow this live chat. It's May the 1st, guys, and we're talking about Tennessee football, and people are excited. They are energetic about it. So let's jump into the debate. And where this – it's not even a debate. It's just a discussion. Because where this came from for me, Dauber, is talking about the momentum that this football program has in recruiting, the Nico effect, the guys that we are seeing all of a sudden show interest. And, yeah, Kyler Casper ended up at Oregon. But a guy like Carnell Tate, the last decade, maybe the last 2 decades, that type of player, Francis Mauigoa, that type of player does not show interest in Tennessee. So let's start with the momentum in recruiting. Then we'll get into the pressure and expectation side of it.
There's a lot of excitement. You look at Tennessee football last year, one of the most exciting offenses in college football. Scoring points like Tennessee's never scored before. Explosive plays, an electric offense. I would go as far to say that. So you do have guys that wouldn't have given Tennessee a sniff before interested. And then just the entire landscape of college football has changed with NIL and the transfer portal and all of that. So I think we saw last year this coaching staff kind of behind the 8 ball, coming in late, and did a pretty good job in the portal. Got some guys that were impactful and contributed to the team last year. So I think you can look for that staff to do the same this year. We've already seen some pretty good pickups. Got some guys that are eyeballing Tennessee after spring practices places. So it's exciting. Like you said, the recruiting, looking a little bit further down the line into the 2023 class, you got guys that are putting Tennessee on their list that, a decade ago wouldn't have even been close. So you got to give credit to the university, to Spire Sports, and the NIL collective that has been established. And, like you said, just a lot of momentum going, not just for the football program, but across athletics at the University of Tennessee.
I'm typing in the private chat as you finish up your. I was trying to time that right. Let's hit the super chat from Evan Counts for 5. Thank you, Evan, for the super chat. Do y'all have any idea what the password was for the 1951 Club website? Feel like we should really be pushing this as a fan base. You guys, was it Attack? I think it was Attack. Try that, Evan. I'm pretty sure it was Attack. Yeah, try Attack. I believe that's what it was. Brent Bridges has become a member of the channel. Appreciate that. Guys, it is going to be a fan call-in show. Everybody's going to be able to join in. That's a member of the channel. We'll put that link out here in just a moment. But thank you, Brent, for becoming a member of the channel. Let's talking about the momentum, the excitement. Let's talk about the pressure on Josh Heupel as we go into 2022, because it's there. And you can get mad and say that fans set unrealistic expectations. I'm not setting unrealistic expectations. What I'm saying is Josh Heupel can't go out and win 4 ball games and expect to continue this moment. Does everybody have headphones in? I got to say it. It's driving me nuts.
Yep.
I got an echo. Xavier, do you have headphones? Grab headphones real quick.
I got you.
So there's this momentum in recruiting, and like Dauber alluded to, it's NIL, it's Spire Sports Group, but it's also the excitement that this coaching staff has created. So Tim, what is your realistic expectation that you think this staff has to continue that momentum? What do they have to do to continue that momentum?
Beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and as far as me this year, I want Georgia and Alabama to be scared in the fourth quarter that they're going to lose that game. I want us as a football team, when you step into Neyland Stadium, you are going to have to fight till 4 quarters, till the time runs out to win that game. That's what I'm looking for this year. I want them to be scared that they are going to lose that game in the fourth quarter.
Let me hit this real quick. Backup KS in the chat. How do you become a member of the channel? Hit the join button just down below. It's right beside subscribe. It's as little as 99 cents, or you can go all the way up. You can become elite. You can become elite for $10 a month. We appreciate the support. All members are going to get the link here in just a moment, and you guys will be able to come on and hang out. That's Tim, talking about winning the games you're supposed to win. That brings me to this, Xavier, and I want to get your comments. Again, this isn't about winning 10 games. It's not about winning 11 games. It's about what does Josh Heupel and this coaching staff have to do to continue that momentum into 2022, to continue to have guys like Carnell Tate, guys like Francis Mauigoa, guys like Tony Mitchell, a guy that nobody expected. Francis Mauigoa and Tony Mitchell were nowhere on the radar, and then all of a sudden, Nico commits. Here comes the interest. NIL, Spire Sports Group. But if you don't get it done on the field of play, eventually, Xavier, that's going to fall off. So when we look at the odds here, when we look at the spread, what games do you consider that Tennessee needs to, like Tim said, win the games you're supposed to win? Is that any game you're favored, or what do you see as a toss-up here?
The only games that I see as a toss-up really is just LSU. But as far as like the rest of the schedule looks, it favors us very, very highly. Like I love the schedule for next season. And as far as like the games that Tennessee has to win, is you got to beat Florida. I'm sorry, it's just that is a must-win game on that schedule, because if you don't beat Florida, then all that momentum, all this hype going for us is going to kind of just deflate. Not majorly, but just a little bit to where some eyebrows are being raised a little bit. And then I would say after the Florida game, you definitely got to beat Bama and Georgia. You have to have both of those games as well. And then that's when we can really say too that okay, Tennessee is legit. They got this momentum going, and it's going to raise high expectations for the recruiting going forward.
I think our headphones messed up Xavier's mic. I don't know what's happening. What's happening? Brad's yelling at Xavier. His mic sounded clean. There was an echo. We got headphones. Now we got static. Dauber, chime in here. What are you looking for in 2022? By the way, if you are gold or elite, the link is on the community tab. You guys can come on and you can chime in with your expectations for 2022.
So I'll put this out here. The Tennessee football team in 2021 overachieved.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll say that. And I think for Josh Heupel and staff, they set the bar pretty high moving into this year. So you're going to have to win the games you're supposed to win, and you're going to have to compete in the rest. And I think that's just like Tim said. It's taking those games where you look at last year. This team played with Florida. Of course, Florida took a tailspin in the second half of the season. They played with Georgia. They played with Alabama for a half. It's got to continue past the first half now. You got to sustain. You got to sustain into the second half, and even later. Be in those games late, and it's not one of those things where it's going to be the end of the world if you drop those games, because at the end of the day, I think those schools are where Tennessee is wanting to get in terms of recruiting, and I think it's getting that. It's close, but I think there's still a drop off, between the second and third string at Tennessee versus Alabama, Georgia. It's a depth thing, and until that's resolved, I think it is going to be hard to continue to play 60 minutes. You go back to the basics of football. Look at General Neyland's maxims. Carry the fight for 60 minutes. It's not, for the first half. It's not for three quarters. It's the entire game. So that's one of the things. I think they'll beat Florida this year. I really do.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
one of those
They're
things.
beating Florida. We're beating Florida. That's a must.
It's tough to just come out and say that, because how many times have we had so much confidence, had a better team, and then find some way to lose that ball game?
And that's what, for me, it goes back to talking about recruiting. That was the whole point of the video. The pressure is not for Josh Heupel to go out and win the SEC this year. That's not the pressure. The pressure is to continue momentum because of recruiting. And the class of 23 is not good enough. You got to have the class of 23, the class of 24, maybe even the class of 25 before you're able to go out there and truly compete. And yeah, Brad bringing up in the chat there talking about that Bama game being a one-score game late in the game. That's where the depth really comes in. And when you've got the Jimmies and Joes, when you've got that depth Dauber's talking about, that's when you can compete with a team like Alabama, a team like Georgia. But for me, the pressure is you got to put it together for multiple recruiting classes. Stack them up. Let me hit this super chat real quick. Evan counts for $20. Thank you, Evan. That is a very generous tip. Doesn't even say a word. He just walks up, slaps a 20 on the table, and heads on out the door. Thank you for the super chat. Very, very generous. Appreciate that. Let's get another elite member. What's up, Elijah Allen? Come on in. Chime in on this topic we're talking about. I saw you in the back room there. What are you thinking going into this season?
I'm excited. I think that we, as a team, if we're undefeated going into Bama, which is not far-fetched, Neyland is going to be rocking. Because there's going to be expectations on the season at that point. And one thing that's encouraged me with Josh Heupel and with this coaching staff is we have not lost the games that we shouldn't lose. There's an argument made for Pitt, but Pitt was more established at the quarterback position than we were. Pitt was a little bit more deeper. Pitt had an established head coach. I don't think a lot of people were expecting us to really win that game. We competed very well, and I'm excited. That's all I can say is I'm just really excited for this season. As a Tennessee fan, I think it's time for us to throw away the battered ball syndrome and move on and just embrace it. I think we're going to do really well this year. I think we'll go 9-3.
When you throw up the schedule, and I don't know if you guys saw it just recently, obviously Kenny Pickett off to the NFL. Pittsburgh's top wide receiver is in the portal. That game just got a whole lot more favorable for Tennessee, but the name Xavier keeps beating in the ground that Tennessee absolutely must win is that Florida game. And I think for this fan base, I was going back and looking at last year, just looking at numbers of the channel, because being a YouTube channel, you can kind of gauge the excitement of the fan base by looking at the views for post-game shows, for the midweek show. You can kind of gauge the pulse of the fan base. And I think the way this thing is going to trend, looking at last year, going into that Ole Miss game, it felt like the old days. Everybody was excited. I think if you go into that Florida game, Neyland Stadium, 3-0, and you lay an egg and you get beat, the wind is going to be out of the sails, and there's going to be a lot of negativity. People think I'm being negative by talking about pressure. There's going to be legit negativity if Tennessee does not win that Florida game. And right now, Tennessee favored by 4, according to BetSmart, going into that Week 4 game against Florida.
Well, let's not be disillusioned. I mean, there's pressure all the time.
It's the SEC, right?
It's the SEC. It's Tennessee football. This fan base is salivating for success. You look at how many new baseball fans there are. You look at how basketball exploded when they started winning and having success. You've got people right now following the baseball team that are all up in arms because they got beat last night, but they don't understand that. They don't understand. They won Friday. They won today. They took the series.
Yeah, we've not lost a series all year.
Yeah, that's
all that matters. That's how you win championships.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's that the casual fan, or they don't necessarily get that it's not necessarily this year. You're building something that can sustain. We're not all in on 2022. We want to have success, but we want to keep that momentum rolling to where you keep chugging up that hill to where you're up there with those elite teams. And you keep building that momentum because success breeds success. So, and I have to give all the credit to Danny White and the administration because things are so positive right now. It seems like everybody's on the same page. And looking back, like if you go back and look at some of the Follow the Vols series that we did, talking about when there was so much turmoil and, programs were up and down and you'd have marginal success, there were too many people in too many spots pulling in too many different directions. I think everybody is on the same page. You look at, Heupel and Tony Vitello, coming into each other's press conferences, cutting up. You look at the football team coming to baseball games. The basketball team's been showing up. I think everybody within the university wants success across the board.
Yep. I totally agree. Yeah. It's like the whole athletic department's come together.
Yeah.
It's been great to watch. And, just a side note, I've been hearing the past 3 or 4 months, pretty much since the Purdue game, that we run a gimmick offense. And I'm so tired of hearing that I went and did film study and watched so many videos and just learned as much as I could about the offense just so I could argue with these people. It's not just the speed. The splits that we use, we split out our wideouts wider than anybody in the country does. We're at the top of the numbers every play. Go ahead, sorry.
That's how exposing Georgia oh no, you're fine. Sorry, that's my bad. That's how exposed Georgia a little bit. Like seriously, how everybody was dogging us, saying like, "Oh, you guys can't score against Georgia in that defense." Well, like what you was talking about, the spread that we did on our offense, that's what kind of exposed Georgia. And then see Bama and all the, well, mostly Bama was looking at that on film, and they were like, hey, if we just spread these guys out, they can't touch us.
Yeah, that's a great point, Elijah. We talked about it early in the year when Milton was at quarterback and the passes were overthrown. The receivers were running free. They were open. The plays just weren't made. And that's it's not gimmicky when it's working, and it keeps working. You had receivers running free and open all season, and that's schemed. That's putting a wide receiver, cutting across a linebacker. It's all those things that I think Josh Heupel is probably one of the best in the country at doing, creating mismatches, using the speed and the tempo to favor those mismatches, and drawing up plans and plays that just put the other team out of position.
Well, that's the whole point. That's the point of football. You call it a gimmick. Who cares? The whole point of football is to get people open. I don't care what you have to do. If guys are, and they are regularly open. It's not like it's a gimmick trick play and it worked once and we can't come back to it. Look at Velus Jones Jr., for crying out loud. Just got drafted to the NFL by the Bears, and you could say, well, Velus is a great wide receiver. Velus is a great wide receiver. But his season high before 2021 under Josh Heupel, his season high was 24 catches at USC in 2018. For his career, 2017, 6 catches, 24 catches, 6 catches. 2020 under Cornbread, 22 catches, 3 touchdowns. Enter Josh Heupel, 62 catches, 807 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Yes, Cedric Tillman. Javonte Payton signed a free agent deal.
Just as a side note, I would just like to say that I was very happy to see Alontae Taylor go in the second round. I think that was huge. For a defensive player to go in the second round under this regime, and he's a good ball player. And I think he deserved it. And I just like Alontae Taylor regardless of anything, because I just think he's a really good ball player, and I think he's a good man. So I'm happy for him.
Well, what does that say in general? Because I had the NFL draft kind of in my notes to talk about if we got to it. But what does that say, the number of Vols drafted? And I know Javonte Payton wasn't drafted, but the fact that he got picked up, what's that, six guys on NFL rosters? I've seen the numbers, and I don't know what's accurate and what's not for the previous 5 years. But for Josh Heupel to come in and do it in 1 year, and you can say what you say what you want. Some of those guys were recruited by Butch. Some of those guys were recruited by Pruitt. But the bottom line is Josh Heupel and this coaching staff now is who developed them. And Velus Jones is proof of that. Looking at the previous stats, and like Dauber said, Cedric Tillman, look at his previous stats. That's a kid that's gonna play on Sundays. It is what it is. Alontae Taylor and Theo Jackson. Look what that's why I'm concerned about the safety position, but hearing what I'm hearing about Trayvon Flowers kind of encourages me a little bit, because look at the transformation in Theo Jackson from 1 year to the next. Maybe we can see that also in Trayvon Flowers. Let me hit the super chat real quick. Evan Counts for 5 says they don't want to talk about those defensive injury gimmicks. No, that's just good hydration. They need to work on their hydration skills. We need to get Derek Dooley in there, work on shower etiquette and hydration. Would be good for Ole Miss.
We can thank old Lane for that, for those injury gimmicks.
And
I saw.
Hey, boys, and I'm gonna tell you what, you're gonna see it this year, but you're gonna see it out of some top level teams against us. Listen, it's gonna get worse. Listen, that Bama game and that Georgia game, they're gonna be doing some laying down, because this offense is gonna be better than it was last year. That no doubt. And
am I wrong to say that?
You're going to see it, and this is what I love. Let me get controversial here for a minute. But every fan and every coach and everything like that calls this a gimmick offense, the only way that you know how to stop it is lay down and stop the tempo. So you tell me it's a gimmick. No, you scared, son. You scared. Get out of here.
What is it going to take? I started talking right when you dropped the JP line. Get out of here, man.
Yeah, get out of here, man.
What is it going to take for the NCAA to make that change? Because I really and truly thought we were going to get something this past offseason.
When Bama and Georgia copies us and starts running the same offense.
That's when you're going to get the change.
That's when you're going to get the change. You watch, see what I'm telling you. Mark her down.
I believe it. I believe it. Because like I said, everybody likes to make fun of us, man. You know, ESPN, they don't love us. Like, see, they'll talk about Vanderbilt, Kentucky, all those other teams, but when it comes to us, they don't care about us.
What I mean, you got an appeal. What was that thing they pat? You got an appeal process. What a joke! What
that's
a
pointless.
joke!
That's pointless.
What a
They're not gonna
joke.
accomplish anything. Jay Clark's in the house. What's up, Jay? Member of the channel. Just to let you guys know, all members of the channel, you now have the link. If you go to our YouTube page, go to the community tab. If you're a member, the link is there. You can click that link and come on in, whether you are sitting in a barracks, buried down in a bunker somewhere, or you're laid back, relaxing like Jay, just chilling on a Sunday afternoon. What's up, Jay?
Oh, not too much. Watching the softball game.
Let's hit this super chat from Brent Bridges for 15. Thank you for the super chat. Off topic, but I can't wait to see Squirrel play, especially seeing what Cedric did. I saw an article just today talking about Hendon Hooker, talking about Squirrel's speed and just how dang fast he is. It takes a lot to get on the field as a true freshman. Dauber, do you think we can see Squirrel White actually make an impact? And keep in mind, he's playing the slot behind a guy that everybody on this coaching staff is talking about taking a step in Jalen Hyatt.
I think you'll see him. I don't know that he'll be a huge impact in terms of the offense. I think he may be a special teams guy this year. But man, his highlights, his speed. If you can find a way to get him involved and find some success with him, I mean, that's the type of player that is plug and play for this system. That's the electric, just the shiftiness and speed. Man, look for big things from him. I don't know, like I said, if it'll pan out this year on the offensive side of the ball. Have they pegged somebody for kick returning?
I don't
Not
think
that
I've
I've heard
seen
of.
that. Yeah, I've not seen
yet.
that.
Not yet, I don't think.
He might be one to throw back there.
I kind of wondered if the kid from Minnesota that they were after in the transfer portal who ended up, he just committed to Oregon today, so that's out. He was a special teams guy, and I kind of wondered, but it was weird the way Austin Price talked about that, because he was supposed to visit this weekend, then the visit got canceled or postponed to next weekend, and he was talking about how the staff really wanted to sit down and talk to him. So, and the word culture was brought up, and I wonder if there was some culture issues with that kid from Minnesota, and that's why it was more of the staff moving on versus, him actually choosing to go to Oregon. And that's something, with the transfer portal, a lot of these kids that are in the portal from a connection, a guy that – I sound like the guys on the message board, but I know a guy who has a family member on this football team. The kid was asked to move on. He was told, you're no longer a part of this football team. I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to say who it is, but they were asked to move on. And I'm wondering how many of those kids that are in the portal now were asked to move on versus, the typical internet response is, good, don't need him, quitter. And it's like, that's not the case. That's not always the case.
Well, and just some people just, yeah, like I said, it's just some people just don't want to choose to come to Tennessee, and that's fine. Now, listen, I would love for these guys to come play for us. I mean, always, if he's like a, like 4-star, 5-star, whatever, but, you can't just force kids to come play for Tennessee if they just don't want to come to Tennessee,
Well, that's the business part of it, though. There's a numbers part. We saw that coming out of fall camp. They were really tentative and light looking in the transfer portal because, and we heard it from multiple people saying they're trying to keep their numbers at a certain level until after spring practice. And now we've seen them pretty heavy in the transfer portal because I think, like Boogie alluded to, you've got some guys that they're, discussing, do they fit this team or are they taking a spot that we can use for somebody else? And that's the reality of it is that happens everywhere, not just at Tennessee. Coaching staff get together, especially a coaching staff that was there in their first year last year and have guys that were recruited by other staffs. And it's one of those things, you know, they approach the kid and say, listen, it's probably going to work out best for you if you look elsewhere. So it's just part of it. It's inevitable everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where this coaching staff goes with the transfer portal. As of now, it sounds like Brew McCoy, it's a done deal. It's just a matter of when. A lot of heavy steam behind the safety at Ohio State coming to Tennessee. And then you've got some other guys out there, but what we kind of revisit this all the time. What position are you looking at for this staff to fill? When I look at the top players in the portal, there's a guy that Eric Gentry. I don't know if you guys saw the video I did on him. Big kid, long kid, outside linebacker, edge rusher at Arizona State. I think it's clear that this coaching staff wants to add an edge rusher. I feel like they are – what's up, Joel? I feel like they may be happy with the linebacker position. I really feel like they may have more of a comfort level with their linebackers and with their secondary than we do.
Boogie, can I say something? I think that the defensive line this year will be one of the most improved units on that team, especially with the second year under Rodney Garner. And I think that if we have that defensive line, which if we get that extra edge rusher, which I think they're looking for, we'll have a defensive line that'll be capable enough to plug some of those holes that we or at least cover up the deficiencies we have in that secondary. I believe we're going to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback this year. That's just my take on it. I think that Rodney Garner has done a great job, and BY was behind last year. Imagine what he's going to do now that he's caught up.
And to add on to what Eli is saying too, and you already know I preach this too, Boogie. Like, but Jeremy Banks, he's got to be the leader of that defensive team. And like I said, because you see how many sacks he put up, this past season. I really want him to be the vocal leader of that team and to get those boys fired up.
I want to see Juwan Mitchell do what Juwan Mitchell came here to do. That's the guy that I'm putting on blast. Juwan Mitchell needs to be a Jeremy Banks. When he came here, he talked about we're going to wreck shop in the middle. Well, one of you did. It's time for Juwan Mitchell to step up and wreck some shop. And like you said, if both of you and Elijah both talking about the defensive line, they can make not only the linebackers look better, they can make the secondary look better. And like Elijah said, last year in the spring game, we were talking about how the defensive line was getting whipped. Every scrimmage, every practice, the reports coming out that defensive line was getting whipped. This year, it was more of a give and take. And it seems like the defense may have won a little bit more than the offense, which to me, Dauber, is a good problem to have because we know this offense is going to go out and score points. We got to get more stops on third down, got to get off the field.
Yes, we got to get off the field.
That's the linchpin of this defense is its ability to get off the field because if it doesn't, it's going to gas out. And everybody knows that is the thing. It was made plainly apparent last year that if you can outlast Tennessee on third down, you've got a chance to beat them.
The one guy that I'm looking for big things from is Big Elijah Simmons. He's coming in supposedly.
Yep. That's another guy.
Cut some weight. Another season behind one of the best defensive line coaches in the country. I think that if he can turn the corner and be, a 2 or 3 down guy that is effective and, eating up some space, but taking on 1 or 2 blockers and getting some pressure at the defensive line spot, then you're sitting in a pretty good shape because, we talked about it last year. That was one of the big problems was I don't know if it was necessarily poor play by the secondary or lack of pressure from the defensive line and linebackers allowing, wide receivers to get open because let's face it, who can cover somebody for, as long as they were having to cover with a quarterback having all day to throw. So I look for Simmons and the defensive line to really step up as well. But that we said it multiple times last year. The defense doesn't have to be perfect because the offense is going to score. They have to do just enough. They have to, hold the team to a field goal instead of a touchdown. You let your offense do the thing. You've got a lot of returning guys and a lot of weapons on the offensive side. If you can get the defense to just kind of, I hate to say bend but don't break, but you kind of got to have that mentality a little bit.
Well, that's the one thing I don't know if you guys have already touched on this or not. I kind of popped in a little bit late, but that's the one thing that I'm kind of concerned about, especially with the lack of depth on the secondary. The front seven can only do so much. You've got to actually give those guys in the front seven time so they can affect the play. If our secondary is giving up 5-10 yard hook routes like we were all year last year, or 2 years ago when we were giving up slants across the middle every 5 seconds, it seemed like. There's only so much that front seven can do if the secondary's quite porous like it has been in the recent past. But I think, honestly, this staff has shown its propensity to be able to recruit high-level players, and I'm really excited personally to see what we can do. It's just I'm suffering from Battered VAWLS syndrome a little bit, but I have more faith in this staff than I have the previous few. So it's going to be exciting for sure.
I want to circle back. Let's come full circle. We got some listeners on here now. Fan call-in show. Everybody's laughing. Everybody's laughing about people being sprawled out, laid back, relaxing, talking about cell phones going off, vibration, background noises. This is a fan-run channel. Fan call-in shows give everybody an opportunity to come on here and voice their opinion, and I love it. I love it, man. You guys are part of this community. So, yeah, the fan call-in shows may not be the most technically savvy. There may be background noise. You never know what you're going to get. I remember the first time, I don't know if you remember this or not. I can't remember who all was on the show. The first time we ever did a fan call-in show, let me get that off there. First time we ever did a fan call-in show, I said, everybody, make sure you've got earbuds in, be away from family, kids, so there's no background noise, whatever. And I can't remember if it was Cody. It might have been Cody Branch. I can't remember. It's a OG. It's a guy that's listened forever. Is the first guy I see pop up in the green room, just no shirt on. No shirt on. Like, rock and roll. Let's go. It is what it is. Let's circle back around here. Talking about battered VAWLS syndrome kind of brought this up. When we talked about what's the expectation, what are you expecting from this team to keep the momentum rolling, keep the train rolling? When you look at those spreads, guys, when you look at, Tennessee favored by 3 against Pitt, favored by 4 against Florida, LSU 3-point underdog. There's a lot of close games on that schedule. What are you looking for, Joel? You popped in late. Earlier we were talking about, again, what Josh Heupel – it's pressure because it's the SEC. Dauber alluded to that earlier. Pressure is always there, but people are pissed at me for saying that there's pressure on Josh Heupel. When you look at those toss-up games, how many games does Josh Heupel have to win to continue to have a shot at recruiting guys like Nico Iamaleava, guys like Carnell Tate, Francis Mauigoa, Tony Mitchell, guys that are interested? How many games is it going to take in 2022 to be able to do that in the class of 24?
Honestly, in my personal opinion, I think 8 wins is very obtainable. I think a lot of fans would see that as not enough improvement fast enough, but being realistic, I think 8 wins is very obtainable this year. I've actually thought about going down to LSU. That's one of my bucket list places I've wanted to visit, especially since Tennessee's going to be playing there. But I think 8 wins should be very attainable for this team this year, as long as we're showing consistent improvement and we're showing that this team is able to be coached and absorb all that information that the staff is throwing at them. I think kids are going to continue to want to come here because the staff is showing they can teach in a way that the kids can absorb it and understand it and improve them not only physically, mentally, but prepare them for life after football as well too. I think that's going to be the big thing. It's just this staff showing that, they can get the job done. They can take X player and make him X amount better.
Chat's kind of all over the place. Jeff Harrison says it's going to take 10 wins. Brian Allison, 9. Terry Reed, 7 or 8 wins, shows progress and consistency. Xavier, I know you want that Florida game. You've got it circled. That is a must-win game. But when you're looking at a number, what's your number to continue that momentum?
Like I said, 8 wins. Because like I said, I already know we're going to lose to Georgia. We're are going to lose to probably Bama. I mean, I don't want to lose those games, but it's just the reality of the situation. Bama's going to be Bama, Georgia's going to be Georgia. But yeah, I really believe that we can win eight games this upcoming season. I really truly believe that.
We have
Also,
Bama at home this year too, don't we?
Wait, say that again, Joel.
We have Bama at home this year too, don't we? And didn't the team just
the
play them tough into the fourth quarter this past year?
Yeah, I've got the bet smart odds up there. It's Alabama at Tennessee. Alabama favored by 2 touchdowns.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, man. I'm sorry. I just.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
It goes from the also faster than I can catch it sometimes.
Oh no, you're good. Also, I wanted to add this too because I know earlier everybody was saying that I sound like like iRobot and stuff. Hopefully everybody can hear me now. But I wanted to add it back too was that another toss-up game that I kind of agree with on Boogie on this is that South Carolina game with Spencer Rattler there now. Listen, we can say what we want about the kid. He's a drama queen. He's this, he's that, but he's still good. He's one of the top quarterbacks for a reason. So South Carolina doesn't scare me that much, but I'm still a little nervous with that game. So I'm going to kind of say that game's a toss-up. So, but I think we can take them.
Tennessee favored by 2 in that game.
The thing that gives me hope about that game, though, is aren't they hemorrhaging receivers right now?
Yeah,
and
in the transfer portal?
It makes me wonder if it is because of Spencer Rattler. And like Xavier said, I'm scared of that game, but that makes me wonder, Tim. All of a sudden, Spencer Rattler shows up. They go through spring camp with him, and the wide receivers are hitting the portal.
I mean, you can be the best quarterback in the world, but if there ain't nobody out there to catch the ball,
yeah.
I mean, that's just something I think about.
Then again, you got to think if we were really supposed to be scared of Rattler, he would have won the job at Oklahoma and probably stayed at Oklahoma too.
Mm-hmm.
True.
You're gonna have Beamer flexing again, down 28 points.
Oh yeah, gonna happen.
That
if there's
that picture is great. Somebody threw it out the other day on a tweet. You all know what I'm talking about.
I'm trying to look it up real quick.
Beamer's flexing, and you got the score down there at the bottom. I think it's like 38-3 or something. And he's like so jacked and excited that they're not even in the game. But I'm not at that point of the year. You're what mid to end of November when that game comes up. This team should be clicking, and South Carolina should be no issue.
So, Dauber, you didn't throw a number out there. Let's break down this schedule a little bit in depth. What are you doing, Dauber? Just sitting back listening to the fans? You're the co-host. Why don't you do a little work? I'm fussing at people in the chat. I don't know where Wayne's at. Wayne, why don't you get in here and do a little work? But Dauber, break down this schedule. Give me the games that scare you and how many wins you're looking for overall.
I think that this team is 4-0 headed to Baton Rouge. That's going to be a tough one. You talk about going into Death Valley. I'm guessing it'll be a night game. Tough place to play. Then you come back the next week with Bama. That's always going to be a tough one. The thing is, it's at home. So two touchdowns. Is that what you had up on the odds?
Yeah, 14 point.
Yeah, against Bama. Yeah.
So that's a doable game. We all saw the atmosphere Ole Miss walked into last year in Neyland Stadium. You're going to have the renovations for the most part in this section that they're doing them in done. It'll be a pretty big time environment. And then I think the second half of the schedule, looking at that, 8 to 10 wins is very doable. And that's, you got two on the front half that are going to be really tough. I think the other four you should win. The second half, really, the Kentucky game. I think that we are in Kentucky's head like Florida is in our head. So I think we'll beat Kentucky. That's, again, in Neyland. So I give Tennessee the edge. The Georgia game on that second half is really the only game that I kind of feel that will be overmanned and overmatched. But you kind of hope that they play with them till late in the game and give themselves a chance at the end. So, yeah, like I said, I think 8 to 10 wins is definitely obtainable for this team. And it all depends. You look back to the 98 season, you got to have some things go your way. You got to stay healthy and free of injury. And I think you got to have a couple guys kind of step up and surprise you and show out.
Let me hit this real quick. I scrolled way down. Now I got to scroll back up. Joel Sane becomes a member of the channel. Appreciate you joining. You guys can become a member of the channel for as low as 99 cents a month, as much as $10 a month. You can be elite for $10 a month. We appreciate all the support. You just throw some money our way, but also you get perks. You get custom Talkin VAWLS emojis. You get access to fan call-in shows like this. Appreciate you guys hanging out. I also try to highlight all of our member chats. Not all of them, but as many as I can because they stand out in green. And look who's here. Alan V. Troll Patrol is here. This guy's a Georgia fan. If you're in the Facebook group and you hate Alan, you might as well get over it because he's family. Good to see Alan here talking trash about Georgia. That's what he does. Brent Bridges for 10. Thank you for the super chat. First time in a while that Alabama has tough games and no bye week before playing us at Neyland. Thank you for the super chat, Brent. And that's a good point. A lot of people pointing that out, that going into that Alabama game, Bama's got two really tough games, but look at our schedule. Florida at home, LSU on the road. Tennessee's got some tough games going into that one as well. But going back to what Dauber's kind of breaking down there, to me, it's break this schedule down. Later, Brad, see you tomorrow night, buddy, or Tuesday night. To me, you break this thing down into two halves, the first half and the second half. And when I look at that first half, I think Florida, LSU, both possible losses. Maybe they get one, lose the other. Maybe this team goes 4-2 on that front half of the schedule. When you flip over to the back end, Georgia's a loss. Everything else on that side of the schedule is winnable. Kentucky's going to be tough. Yes, we're their big brother. We pick on them. We're in their head, but it is what it is. Kentucky, South Carolina, I think you may split there. And so I say 4 in the front half, 4 in the back half. That gives me my 8, but I think the ceiling is 10. This team can win 10 football games. Elijah, what do you think about that, breaking it into two halves? Let me get Cody on here. Let me get Wayne on here. Then, Elijah, go ahead and give me your thoughts on that.
All right, so I think we go 5-1 in that first half.
What's up, guys?
Alabama.
Happy to be here.
With LSU and Bama, Bama's offensive line is documented bad this year. And if our defensive line can take a step, the momentum we have coming out of LSU, if we win that game, there's a very good possibility we could beat Bama. And look, I know that's a hot take, and that's some crazy stuff to say, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. We played them very, very well last year. Georgia, and if there's one team I want to blow out in the second half of the season, it's South Carolina. I'm about tired of hearing South Carolina fans talk. The only reason they had a decent season last year is they beat a Ford team that self-imploded halfway through the last of the season last year. And no. We're going to blow out South Carolina.
Well, you seen what happens when they came to Neyland last year when we went to dark mode. Hey, they got stomped out.
They can't hang. I'm very optimistic about this next season. I'm hoping it doesn't get crushed. But if we had Georgia at home this year and Alabama on the road, I'd probably flip it. I think we're going to compete very well with Georgia next year. I don't think they can keep up offensively. I don't think their defense is going to hold as well as they were last year. And I'm not saying Georgia's not going to reload. I think Georgia's going to be very good next year. But they're not going to be the Georgia defense of last year.
Oh yeah, no, because like I said, their defense, like I said, they all got drafted. So it's kind of just like, where's your defense? Not saying that it's going to be like hurting a little bit, but yeah, like everybody got drafted. So it's like we won't see that defense again.
Cody, jump in here, buddy. What are you looking? Hold on, Dobber. Jump in here, Cody. What are you looking for? Give me that magic number to continue that momentum.
8-4. I don't believe our defense is going to be anywhere near as good as it should be, and I think that's what's going to cost us again this year.
You think the defense is going to be better or worse than last year?
It's going to be a little bit better, but it's not going to be nowhere near as good as it needs to be 9-3.
What are your I'm trying to comprehend what Cody. Give me your losses. Give me your losses, Cody.
I think we lose to LSU, Alabama, and Georgia for sure. South Carolina, Kentucky, and Florida, along with Pitt, are toss-up games.
I think that's what scares me so much is just how many toss-up games are on this schedule. Dobber, I cut you off to get Cody's opinion. Where were you going, buddy?
I was just going to say the whole deal, like I talked about earlier, is the difference in depth between the teams like Alabama and Georgia. Even though Georgia had all these guys drafted and are gone, there's not much of a step back if you look at, replacing a 5-star with another 5-star.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when we drop off of our, starting 11 on defensively, you got guys that wouldn't even be on the field. You got guys for Georgia and Alabama sitting on the bench that won't see the field that would start everywhere else in the country. But that's where the big difference is right now between this Tennessee roster and some of the rosters of those games that are going to be tough. I don't see as many toss-up games as some of you guys though.
I was going to say, I don't think that LSU is as much of a toss-up game as everybody thinks, because I think a lot of us are thinking that LSU is the Les Miles-led LSU. It's not. This is a first-year staff coming in with a completely depleted roster. And I honestly don't think they'll be able to keep up with us offensively. Now, their defense may be a little more stingy than ours, but like I said, with the type of season Hendon Hooker had last year and him potentially going for a Heisman this year, I just don't think LSU can keep it. Granted, it is in Baton Rouge. That's going to be a big factor. But you put up 14, 21 points on them in the first quarter, that fan base is going to be silenced. I just don't.
Boys,
I can see it being a battle, but I don't see us losing down there. I really don't.
If you kind of look at it,
they're not undefeated in Death Valley.
Yeah,
They
and
are
if you
not undefeated in Death Valley.
Yeah, they ain't undefeated in Death Valley. Now, they also added plenty transfers.
yeah, I'm about to say if you kind of look at LSU, sorry about that. Didn't mean to cut you off. If you kind of look at LSU, they're kind of like Florida in the same situation. Like with Coach O gone, half the roster's gone. Some of them transferred out. Some of them, just are not coming back. So if you really look at LSU, they're kind of in the same boat as Florida. So I mean, like I said, Baton Rouge is going to be tough, and it's probably going to be a night game. So it's going to be that stadium's going to be rocking, but I kind of believe that I think we might have the edge just a little bit because, like I said, Hooker's coming back. He's going to have an even better season than what he did last season. So I'm still going to call LSU a toss-up game, but I think it's going to be a really good competitive game.
I think it's going to be competitive, but don't act like, that LSU doesn't still have talent. They had a lot of 2 or 3 recruiting classes where they were top 10, and they definitely beat Tennessee in recruiting. And Brian Kelly, he might be a fool on Twitter, but he can coach football.
Yeah.
Brian
Kelly's faux cornbread.
I still though, if it comes to a shootout if it comes to an offensive shootout between Josh Heupel and Brian Kelly, I'm going to go with Coach Heupel.
Oh, me
Yeah.
too.
That's the way I
But
look at it.
Yeah.
If it
I
comes,
would.
if it comes down to that kind of a game, if it comes down to just who can score the most points, I'm gonna lean us a little bit in that, just because Kelly hasn't had that time that we've had. He's where we were last season.
Yes, but defensively, I think LSU is quite a bit better than Tennessee is. And what scares me is, will LSU be able to get more stops than Tennessee? Because I really don't think Tennessee's defense, especially losing Alontae Taylor at corner, Theo Jackson, we've got a lot of work to do in the secondary and a lot even at linebacker. Jeremy Banks, I've heard about him and how much he's improved. He is still, in my opinion, not an SEC linebacker. I mean, you don't see an Al Wilson, a Kobe Dean like you do at Georgia. You know, the linebacker that was at LSU a couple years ago from Nashville, he just doesn't play like that. You know, he's not smart plus make the plays. He's always getting 15-yard penalties, hurting the team. And then that's the only thing that worries me about playing LSU at LSU.
Hey, just the same from Jeremy Banks. I wouldn't mind a couple of suplexes here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't do that and win football games. You know what I mean?
I know.
You can't do that.
I don't know. The funny thing is the things that people praise Al Wilson for, they hate on Jeremy Banks for it. Al Wilson was a dog.
Yeah.
Al Wilson was a dog, but Al Wilson did it in the play while it was legal, and you could still do that in football. I've never known it legal to where you can pick a man up and power bomb him. If he wants to do that, he needs to go to wrestling. WWE's, they're hiring every day.
What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. But we're talking football here.
I like me some Jeremy Banks. I think we're nitpicking this LSU game, but I think it's because it is such a crucial game. But the bottom line is it's not just LSU, and I do agree with you guys. I think that's an even game. If that game was in Neyland Stadium, I think it's going to be dead even. But I think they're giving LSU the points there because it's on the road. But it's because there are so many games that are toss-up games that I'm a little nervous, but also it creates excitement and it gives us so much to talk about. These are the games on the schedule that are toss-ups. The Pitt game, 3-point game. The Florida game, 4-point game. LSU, 3-point game. Kentucky, 3-point game. Missouri's a touchdown. I'm not really calling that a throw-up.
South Carolina.
South Carolina, 2-point game. Yeah. If you include that Missouri game in there, that's 6 games. 6 games that they are projecting a touchdown or less. That's a tight schedule.
But weren't South Carolina, Missouri toss-up games last year too?
No, they weren't, Dauber.
No.
But they weren't. But I hope we play the same way. But
they were at the start of the year, Dauber.
We did. That's what I'm saying. You're right on that.
But listen. The thing is, if we had a different starting quarterback the first 3 games of the season, are you looking at a 10-win football team?
You are looking at a 10-win football team.
I don't believe so.
That's true, but we got lucky against Kentucky.
That changes the narrative moving forward to this season. If things were different in 2 games at the beginning of the schedule.
It does, but we got lucky in Lexington against Kentucky.
Yeah.
You can say Ole Miss got lucky against us in Neyland.
Yeah. I mean, we couldn't stop anybody that night. They had like 600 and how many yards?
And that's
we couldn't stop anybody. Yeah, we outscored them, and Alontae Taylor won that ball game with that interception. That's what he ended up deciding the outcome.
That's what we said all along, though. If this defense can do just enough, the offense is going to score points. And at the end of the clock, that's all that matters is you have more points than them. So
that's true. But that's what I'm worried about. Just enough, Dauber. I don't like that. Just enough.
Yeah, I mean it is one thing. We talked about it a little bit baseball wise. You know, what would you rather see? Games like last night and today, or the curb stomping that Tennessee put on Auburn?
I like Friday night.
The last 2 innings of Friday night.
I would rather see a curb stomp. I feel we'd start having that little Alabama syndrome. Well, I'm not even going to watch the game, and we're going to win anyway. So you need a competitive game every here and there, but I'd rather see a blowout.
Yeah,
that means
Shame Beamer is Derek Dooley 2.0. All right, that's all he. It's if you hear him talk, It's the same rigmarole. It's the same used car salesman stuff that he did. I'm not bought on.
Well, here's the thing, Boogie, and you know where I'm going to go with this. When Tennessee gets back to November football being games that are no doubt, you look at the 90s and the 2000s, you got
Vanderbilt and Kentucky.
You got to November, and those were guaranteed wins. South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, you just chalked them up. You were getting ready for your bowl game. That's all it was. Those games should not be a toss-up fan. As a Tennessee fan, you don't want to see those games as toss-up games. Those are teams that you should be beating. And that's where this staff is wanting to get, to where you're not competing with those teams for recruits, and you're that much further ahead of them.
Honestly, I think this staff is honestly trying to get us to the point where we're in the Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama territory of not really having to worry too much about the regular season. We're worried more, how are we going to prepare this team for the playoff? How are we going to get ready for the national championship game every single year? Just like the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Ohio States have done.
That's what we started talking about. Boogie led into it, talking about the recruiting. You're getting guys looking at Tennessee that a decade ago weren't. And that's the guys that are looking at the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Clemsons of a few years ago. They I think are maybe on their way kind of leveling back out.
Yep.
And that's where you win in January also is in recruiting. That's how you win those games in the playoffs.
So you're
recruiting.
You're competing for guys that are previously were looking at those schools instead of guys that, you're competing with Kentucky over a guy that, ends up going to Louisville. I mean, getting a linebacker that's going to go to Louisville or getting an SEC caliber linebacker, that looks like an RLD, that's what you want is a team full of real life dudes instead of swimming and diving team or something. I mean, it's big boy football.
Let me hit the super chat, then I want.
Go ahead, please.
I want to hit the super chat, then I want to cycle back around and come back to recruiting because that's another thing I wanted to talk about from a video I made earlier. But here's $10 from Robbie S. Thank you for the $10 super chat. We appreciate that. Says in any game that's a close game or a blowout, what matters is the team needs to show up and play properly. I believe that Heupel will get them in the zone to play. Go Big Orange. Thank you, Robbie S. for the super chat. Probably a good time to say this too. We got 122 people watching. I know people want us to cover baseball, but we're having discussions about what we're going to do moving forward with that because we got 140 or 50 people in here talking about football in May. We got to do what makes sense. But let's go show us some love. Pick up some merchandise. Bonfire.com/store/Talkin VAWLS. If you're elite, if you know, you know. And then you can go buy your elite merchandise. But if not, we got State Pride merch. All the old logos. Again, bonfire.com/store/Talkin VAWLS. If enough people show up to these streams, if enough people join the channel, Boogie and Dauber get crazy and start giving away free stuff. That's what happens here. But also make sure you guys smash that thumbs up. Let's talk a little bit about recruiting because I made a video earlier in the week talking about momentum in recruiting and look, if you know, I mean, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. I mean, if you're elite, if you're elite, if you know, you know. Well done, Joel. Let's I made a video talking about momentum in recruiting and just how once Nico committed, all these guys like Dauber mentioned earlier start all of a sudden showing a little bit of interest. And I put a number out there and I said over under when it's all said and done in the class of 23, Josh Heupel signs 2.5 5-stars. So does he sign 3 or more or does he sign 2 or less? He's already got Nico in the boat, so there's your one. Now we're talking about guys like Carnell Tate, who the NIL deal seems to be real. It seems to be legit. On3 has him at 60.5% coming to Tennessee. Simmons put in the crystal ball for Tennessee. You've got Francis Mauigoa. This is the kid I want more than anybody. More than anybody. 6'5", 327, offensive tackle. When you got an offensive tackle that's a 5-star, you got a legit dude. And that's who I want in the boat. Right now on 3, Tennessee is trailing a little bit, but the word on the street, the word over at VolQuest, AP keeps saying that Nico is in his ear. The other name everybody's talking about, Tony Mitchell, 5-star defensive back out of Alabama. Spoiler alert, I don't see that one happening. I really don't. But Shandavian Bradley, defensive lineman. Looking at on 3, he's a 4-star, but I think he's a 5-star somewhere. Maybe not. Can't remember. Anyway.
247, he's a 5-star.
247, okay. I couldn't remember where it was. I knew it was somewhere. So over, under. Cody, we'll start with you since you dropped the knowledge on me. Tennessee signing more or less?
I think we signed 5.
Oh, my gosh.
Ooh. Money talks, BS walk.
That right there is why I'm talking about the importance of 2022 on the field of play. Yes, money talks.
Yeah.
But these kids also want to win championships. They want to play for championships. Money will get them in the boat early. Dauber, you going over or under?
Over under 3 or 2.5? Is that, I'm going over. I'm going. I think they get 3. If Nico pans out, and here's the thing. I'm not the biggest fan of verbal commitments. Nothing is concrete until those papers are signed and faxed in.
Guess what? An $8 million contract is signed. That's
if he's already signed that, he can't go nowhere, though.
Yeah.
It just means he's going to reimburse that fund back from his other NIL fund. Until those papers are signed, I don't care what NIL contract you have. Somebody else can come along and say, I'm going to give you 10, and he'll write a check and hand the money back to Spire Sports Group. And until the papers are signed and faxed into the University of Tennessee on early signing period or the national signing day, man, I have a hard time. And it's changed so much. You know, it used to be sit and watch, in the war room and all that signing. This early signing period it's made it weird. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. It just kind of took some of the dramatic, theatrics out of it and getting all amped up for it. But, I do think Nico stays the course. I think you're picking up two more 5-stars.
You gonna give me a name? Who do you think they land? Not to put you completely put you on the spot. Not researching recruiting before we went live.
I think Tate, and
I think Tate's done, man. I think he's in.
Yeah, I say Tate's coming. Yeah.
I don't know. There's
Burley.
Is Burley a 5-star too? He's the same as Bradley. I don't.
Yeah.
It's they're
and
on.
His
they're 5
family
stars on
loves
certain.
Rodney Garner.
The reason I'm going over because Nico, obviously, I think Tate's already in the boat. I think it's a done deal. And I think Garner is going to get one or both of Bradley and Burley. I really, truly believe that. And I'm telling you guys, the momentum on Maui Goa is really starting to fire me up. And maybe it's BS. We saw it with Kyler Casper, right? We had that momentum there and lost it.
Garner is the man at closing stuff the final minute.
If you get them 3 in the boat, then you can start calling that what was it they tried to call the offensive line last year?
Tennessee Ball Authority.
TVA.
Yeah,
TVA
that would be the true TVA.
I don't remember if it was Dauber or Indy Kid that said it was more like Boone Dam.
Boone Dam.
That dam had some holes in it.
The O-line was the problem that year.
I laughed about that for a week. I'm still laughing.
That wasn't
about
the
it.
issue that year, though. It was the manager of the dam that was causing so many problems. But I won't get into all that.
But, no, I'm gonna say at least 3 to 4.
You gonna give me your names too? Throw your names in there too. Who do you like?
Who? The 2 fellas on the back. I'm horrible with these kids' names. I just remember their faces when I see them on the recruiting profiles. But the 2 you mentioned on the back end, that you say we're going to pull
Bradley
one or
and
both
Burley.
of them. Bradley and Burley. Yeah. And just because of who's recruiting them, nothing else other than that, because they all know who that man is. and they know he's a legend, and they know the best shot that they're going to have to get in the league is being coached by that man. And I'm like you, Boogie. I think Tate's in the bag. I think he's on his way. That he wants to play with Nico. I think that's pretty apparent. He wants to play with. He wants to be with his buddy, and they want to go out there and fling it around and be on highlight reels. I mean, that's what it is.
Does that count? Does that over/under count for Brew McCoy too, though? Does he still count as a former 5-star?
No, he's a transfer. So I'm talking class of 23.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he'll be coming in for this year, won't he?
Yeah. Yep. He's intriguing to me because I'm excited about him because, like you said, Joel, he was a 5-star, #1 athlete in the country. He played 1 year of football in 3 years. I'm more worried about that than I am what he does off the field, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, because we do need somebody on the outside of Cedric. So
somebody in the chat said stars. I can't share this because it's on the VolQuest message board. Said stars don't matter. Stars don't matter. And I say that a lot sometimes too when you're talking about recruiting and you're talking about you sign a 3-star kid, but you got to trust, evaluation, player development, all that stuff. It does matter. But at the end of the day, you look at the NFL draft this year, #1 pick, 5-star, #2 pick, 4-star, #3 pick, 5-star, #4 pick, 3-star, #5 pick, 5-star. It matters. There's more 5-stars. What do you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 60% of your top 10 draft picks, 5-stars. And it's odds, guys. It's odds. These recruiting sites, they're not always spot on. They miss. They don't evaluate talent the way they should at all times. But at the end of the day, it does matter. The more 5-stars you get in the boat, the better.
I mean, look at the playoffs are the proof of that. I mean, the teams that make the playoffs every year, that's your 1, 2, 3, and 4 usually every year in recruiting. You know what I mean? Georgia wasn't there until they got Kirby Smart. He started bringing in all these 4- and 5-star defensive players and tailbacks, and that turned it all around. It does matter. I mean,
To be fair, Kirby walked into a way better situation than a lot of coaches walk into.
Oh, yeah, he had Mark Richt before him. I mean, I agree with that, but I mean, still, recruiting does matter. That's where your games are won.
He still sustained it and kept it on the right track.
He actually got a little better.
From Brian Roberts, stars matter to other players. They want to go with other 4s and 5s, and that's why the Nico effect is real. Kids want to go play with a guy that can get them the ball. And that's why we're seeing all the momentum with wide receivers. But that's where I get excited seeing guys like Burley, guys like Bradley, Tony Mitchell. Do you guys think Tony Mitchell, do you think there's any? I don't see it. I think that kid.
I don't see it. I think Alabama and Georgia, it'll be between one of those two. There's too many big fish chomping at his bit. You know what I mean?
I don't see it.
But I think it's over. I think we'll get more than 2.5. I think, with Nico, I think, like you said, I think Tate's already in the bag. He just hasn't come out and said it yet. I actually think Vic Burley's already in the bag just because him and Shandavian Bradley both. I mean, it's not like Garner just knows the player. He's in with mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. He's in with the entire family, and they all love him. So I think that we get 3 more, including Nico, without Nico. So 4 or 5-stars with Tate, Bradley, and Burley. And I really think there's an outside chance we get Maagoa too, just from the relationship with him and Nico Iamaliava.
Well, and what
that helps a lot. Go ahead,
sorry to cut you off there, Wayne. No, you're fine. Like what just Wayne was saying, like I said, with everybody just having this relationship with everybody, that's what I love what Coach Hype was doing, is that he's creating a family culture up in Knoxville. And I really love that. That's why Nico is, like I said, like hollering at his boy to say, like, hey man, come to Tennessee, like it's a family culture here. We just like to have fun and compete for championships. And that causes more momentum in recruiting. And that's why I keep preaching to the high heavens. I was like, that Florida game, man, that is a must win for us, because that shows that we are being serious and that we are going to compete for SEC championships and they're going to compete for national championships. I mean, it's even like what Hooker said to Josh Heupel. about last season when he was coming back. He was just like, yeah. He's like, I want to come back. And then he says, guess what? You know, you trying to go to Atlanta? And he's like, yeah, like, let's do it. And he even preached about like what Burrow did in LSU. And I'm just saying, if we could do that to just take that momentum and go all the way to Atlanta, that's going to boost recruiting very, very highly.
The other thing
wins
is,
make that happen.
The other thing is you're recruiting a different type of kid though too. It's a kid that wants to come build a legacy and flip the script on the narrative of the program. You know, they want to be in on changing
ground
changing
level.
history. You know, and that's the type of kid that is willing to put in the work and you know, get it done versus step into somewhere where it's easy.
Right.
That's and we've been using that as the selling point, talking to each other, right? It's like, oh man, if player X would just come in and he could be the guy, he'd be the legend that turns it all around, right? But we couldn't get him interested. NIL, money talks. It gets him interested.
Yeah.
But somebody in the chat just made a point. It's still a relationship business. Money gets them interested. Money gets them on campus. But then, like Xavier said, they're seeing what Josh Heupel has built. And if you couldn't see it last year, just throughout the spring, the look on the kids' faces, they went from boot camp misery, they looked like Tim sitting there in the barracks buried underneath the building, to looking like the rest of us, smiling and happy, just living the dream. They went from boot camp to man, just having fun and wanting to be around each other. And that's why I like to hear, and I can't remember the kid's name, the Georgia Tech running back. So many people wanted Jahmyr Gibbs. So many people wanted him, and I wanted him. But then the truth is Josh Heupel didn't want him because he didn't fit the culture. The kid from Minnesota, there's rumors that he didn't fit the culture. Now he goes and commits to Oregon. It's so generic to say, oh, just trust the staff. What's the fun in that? I'd much rather get on here and argue with Cody and Wayne and yell at each other and disagree and voice our opinions and listen to Xavier talk about how great Jeremy Banks is and then Wayne follow it up 10 minutes later and say he sucks. It's so much fun. That's what being a fan is, right? That's why all of us are on this channel talking, because we all have that same passion. But on the flip side, I trust Josh Heupel. I trust what he's doing.
All I'm saying is, you know, we talk about just back to the Tuesday streams. The quarterback's here right now, all right? And Buck ain't nowhere to be seen, so.
You're trying to earn that starting job, Elijah. It's like you've already given the NIL money. Now you're on an official visit, and Buck's nowhere to be seen. Buck's not on campus.
If somebody would have made a better recruit, I might have a shot at starting the wide receiver too. But
you guys figured out my schemes and scams. Schemes and scams.
In all seriousness, he's bringing in good ball players, but he's also bringing in good people as well. And it's not these kids are going to cause you problems 2 or 3 years down the road. It's not people that are going to get arrested after their spring game. Anthony Richardson going 100 miles an hour down the road. You know, it's people that are going to be there, and they're going to be there for the team. And it's going to be for the betterment of the team. And if they ain't there for the betterment of the team, they're going to be asked to leave.
Let me hit this super chat real quick from
I agree,
Von
but
Dave.
you know, Anthony Richardson, that was just kids being kids. Sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I was just poking at Florida because I hate Florida.
Von Dave for 5. Thank you for the super chat.
Right.
Appreciate that. I think Heupel lands Nico, Carnell Tate, Francis Maui Goa, Vic Burley, and Shandavian Bradley. Tennessee finishes with a top 5 class. That's where I'm at. But I think maybe one of the two
To
between
piggyback
Burley
on you?
and Bradley.
To piggyback on you, though, I do agree, because you look at Georgia, they had a 5-star last year. I believe his name was Adam Anderson, and I think he raped a girl down in Georgia.
Allegedly.
Now he's off the team.
Allegedly.
Right?
No, he was indicted.
Yeah,
He was indicted.
yeah. This was a lot. This was more than like the A.J. Johnson one. You know what I mean? It seems like, because he even had teammates that come out and spoke against it and stuff. So, yeah, we don't want no guys like that. I can deal with the driving 100 mile an hour dour down Broadway, but I can't deal with raping girls and shit like that. Sorry, no.
Wayne just bringing the whole show down, talking about recruiting and atmosphere. How do you segue that? How do you segue that?
It's Sunday, preach, Wayne.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
You don't want my feet to catch on fire. I ain't going in no church.
You guys, I've lost all control.
I think
Dobber,
Age and Orange.
segue.
I think Age and Orange just hit it right there.
Yeah.
That we're discussing 5-star recruits a couple years out of Jeremy Pruitt. I think we're doing all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look back where we were going into
Yeah,
that
because I
spring.
say if you look at like the Pruitt era, like I said, and then that's what made me so mad with that whole season because we looked amazing on paper. We had, Dooley, and then like I said, had T. Martin come back. I mean, like we had some great people come back, in the front office and stuff. And then you just see what just happened to our season, and it's just like that was just a big disappointment. Like that was really a big disappointment.
The thing is, just because, and I hate to say this because T's a legend around here, but just because they're a great player doesn't mean they're going to be a great coach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I loved having him for the nostalgia factor, but he got run out of USC and he got run out of here too. I ain't but
I don't think enough. I don't think enough credit gets given to this new administration.
No.
Yes.
And I think it's for decades that has been the number one issue with not just the football team, but with Tennessee athletics in general was the administration. And boys, you can have all the Jimmys and Joes and all that stuff you want. If you don't have an administration that has a winning attitude and forwards the athletic department, it doesn't matter. The reason why Bama is the way they are, Georgia is the way they are, go look at their administration. They are 100% behind that team and what's best for that program as a whole. I feel like we finally got that here in Knoxville.
And it's not only just the administration; it's the teachers, it's the fans, it's the boosters, it's everybody else too. You have to have 100% investment in the program from everybody involved for it to get to the level of the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States. You've had coaches try to go from one school to another and refuse a job because, well, I don't have total investment. Why am I going to take a job if I don't have 100% support? I'll go somewhere that'll give me all the resources I need to succeed instead of coming to this big name program that, speaking of another UT, sounds familiar, but that doesn't have total investment and other boosters want to put their name in the hat and, kind of try to decide they're trying to have things their way. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too, basically.
Right.
Yeah. Tennessee didn't have that for a long time, and neither did Alabama. I mean, Alabama, didn't they have to come to Tennessee to get Dickey to be the athletic director at Alabama to learn how to run it down there and turn their football program around? Isn't that what happened at Alabama? And then finally, Tennessee, I think we found our man in Danny White. And not only has he turned everything around as far as football, I mean, look at what everything else is doing. Look at the women's softball team, the baseball team, the basketball team. I mean, even lacrosse. We won the national championship in lacrosse, didn't we?
Won a national championship in rugby.
Yeah, rugby. That's what
rugby.
Yeah, Australian
Kentucky.
football.
Soccer team's been pretty good for a while too. I ain't mistaken. Which nobody likes soccer, but
it's just, and I think Danny White knows this first and foremost. Is if you put it in Knoxville, if you put a winning product on a cricket field, this fan base is going to show up and support it.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that coming in. I think that's why he wanted to come here. He said, "You know what? If I get a winning product on that field, then people will come unglued." they know because we support this team when it sucks.
Well, that's why the timing of it all worked perfectly, because Danny White came in, who gets it. The administration, now they're all aligned. Danny White gets it. Danny White's a fundraiser. NIL becomes legal. Spire Sports Group is in place and ready to go. And let's go. The stars aligned. We have been miserable for over 20 years, and it's finally coming back our way. And it feels great.
I've said it about NIL 100 times, and I'll keep preaching it until the end of time. Man, it feels good to be on the cutting edge of something.
Yep.
In the sports world.
And also we got to thank the portal too, because see, if it wasn't for the portal, honestly, our rebuild would have took a lot longer.
Yeah, it sped it up for Josh Heupel that first year right out of the gate. I mean, look at your quarterback. Your quarterback came right out of the portal.
Right.
Yeah.
You were talking about raising money and something that made me laugh the other day. You remember when Vitello got kicked out for bumping the umpire and got suspended for 4 games? He was doing $2 chest bumps outside the stadium then to raise money for donation. I thought that was awesome.
No. He didn't get kicked out for bumping him. He bumped him after he's already thrown out.
Right.
You talking about this right here,
One
Wayne?
of them was, and now they're both thrown out. And now Tony Vitello bumps the third base umpire.
Yeah, that's the point.
Tony Vitello is going to make something else, man.
So he made a positive out of that one negative. I thought that was awesome.
You think that baseball fan base is arrogant? You just wait till football's back.
My God.
We're going to be unbearable. We're going to be the worst fan base in the country, and I'm going to love every second of it.
You think? Well, they said we're the most. They said we're the most toxic fan base in college football.
They ain't seen toxic yet.
It's called passion.
If you cross us.
Boogie, I'm going to tell you, and this goes back to another video you made about Josh Heupel being a villain. Josh Heupel is not going to have to be the villain.
No.
That's what we're for.
Yeah, we'll do
it. We will make Tennessee the villain. Don't worry about that.
No doubt about it.
How about Tony V throwing the bat?
Throwing the bat at Auburn.
Yeah, throwing the bat.
That was
How dare you flip your bat over here?
Did you see the quote afterwards?
Somebody had to get it for him.
Yep, they threw it in her dugout. Yeah. Somebody had to give it back to him.
I think what would have made that even better if he would have just grabbed it and ratcheted up in the stands and let somebody keep it as a souvenir. And I wouldn't put it past him to do it.
He throwed it and it hit a Auburn player though in the hip.
Allegedly.
I thought that was hilarious. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Squirrely Dan over here. Allegedly.
I thought that was awesome.
Thing, to circle that back around to what we're talking about, though, guys. Tony V is the identity of that baseball team. Josh Heupel is the identity of this football team. And that's how long has it been since we've had that at this, as a fan, I love that. I love that this whatever team it is taking on the identity of their coach. And that's when you start getting the recruits, the pieces start falling together, and eventually you start winning ball games.
Yeah, and same with Rick Barnes too. I mean, Rick Barnes, he has an identity with the basketball team.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're an hour. Yeah, I was going to say that, Wayne. Then I just let it slide. we're an hour and a half into this thing. I think we're going to wrap it up. Appreciate you guys coming and hanging out. I love the fan call-in shows. Appreciate the turnout in the chat. Always a good time. If you haven't done it, hit that thumbs up on the way out the door. If you're watching this on the replay, hit the comment section. Let me know what your win total is. What win total does Tennessee need to continue that momentum? But that's going to wrap it up. Make sure you tune in Tuesday night, NCAA 13. It's always a good time. For Dauber, for Tim, for Xavier, for Elijah, for Joel, for Cody, for Jay, for Wayne. What?
Before you go.
Uh-oh, Joel's got.
How much to make me a starter?
Starting quarterback.
No, starting wide receiver. I want in the slot.
Got to bump those stats, man. We got to bump. No, I put you. I actually replayed that Texas game. I just played it off air. You're in the slot. You're in the slot. Okay. So it's all good. It's all good. All right, now that we took care of NCAA 13 business, He's Dauber, he's Tim, he's Xavier, he's Elijah, he's Joel, he's Cody, he is Silent J. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go big. I'm trying to find my outro orange.
That we call